I beg people to wake up. Our children are being over-sexualized, confused, and then pushed along this narrative. Now, when children cannot drive a car, buy cigarettes, vote in our elections, fight in our military, get a tattoo, why are they being allowed to self-diagnose, choose their treatment? Some of these children aren't even being seen in person, and they're receiving their hormone therapy on appointment number 1. They're being chemically castrated. That is cruel. That is child abuse.
Hello and welcome to Bay Area Innovators. I'm your host, Steve Espas. Today we are joined by Yvette Corkrean. She has been in the medical industry in San Francisco for the last 25 years. She has been outspoken about gender ideology issues related to children, which is our topic today. Yvette, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure. It's an honor being here.
Great to have you here. We'd like to talk about transgender ideology and transgender issues. It's been a big issue in California. It seems like almost overnight it blew up. It grew so much. Sex reaffirming operations, hormone blockers, things like this. There's a $1.9 billion industry just for the sex operations in the last year. And it's increasing at 11%. And according to other reports, it's increasing even faster. Why is that?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons why it is. One, it's being taught in the schools. In fact, it's basically being forced upon everybody in the schools, in the workplace, starting with pronouns. Everybody is required to use pronouns. There's this issue. And I think it is our government. And I think it's also the medical industry, because each child is worth $1.5 million to the medical industry when they start manipulating their hormones. Either with hormone blockers, cross-sex hormones, as well as surgeries. So,
is that because of the length of the program, the length of the help they need after the transition?
Well, multiple reasons. Once you start manipulating your hormones, you're medicalized for life. So for life, you're medicalized. So whether that's just medications, that's one aspect. As they perform the experimental gender reassignment surgeries, we're finding that many of these patients will have complications. So insurance companies are helping to assist these gender-confused individuals along the path to manipulate their body. But once they have the surgery and have complications, the insurance companies are not as willing to assist these patients with their complications. And then it's, out-of-pocket fees. There's a lot of support to cross them over, but little to no support to help them after. And if they want, once they realize, or if they realize that they made this mistake and they want to reverse what they did, not much support in terms of that.
How much role do you think the government policies play into this?
A significant amount. In fact, I loved reading one of the articles that the Epoch Times sent out not too long ago, if I may. I would like to quote, this is by Jackson Elliott, and it was November 6th of 2023. And this is how the U.S. spent $4.1 billion on global LGBT initiatives. So I 100% support our lesbians, our gays, our adult transgenders. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves to be who they want to be. But to be teaching this in the schools, starting in the younger days, the kindergarten, preschool, and feeding it to these children all the way up through high school and college, this is harming our children. It's confusing them. We didn't have this issue 10 years ago, but now we do. And in fact, I think it is from 2012 to 2023, it has increased at about 5,000%. In regards to the policies, what I was beyond shocked about in this specific article was, and I'd like to kind of quote this, is that the National Empowerment for the Humanities is translating homosaurus, which is a thesaurus for LGBT terms, into Spanish. And a couple of the words, the homosaurus is differentiating sexual terms such as anonymous sex, aromantic porn films, children's sexuality, gay children, but more importantly, the homosaurus is reclassifying fetishes. Words like, and I can't even pronounce them properly, I don't think, genitophilia, ephobophilia, and hebephilia, which are Greek words that mean sexual attraction to elderly, sexually attracted to children, ages 15 to 19, and sexual attraction to children 11 to 14 years old. So our government is spending $350,000 on this program alone to normalize pedophilia, to take pedophilia and break it up in different terms with age brackets. Why? I'm not sure, because pedophilia is pedophilia. Is this because they're going to provide different punishments for different age groups for pedophilia? I don't know, but I found this appalling.
I'm glad you bring this up. I know there's a lot of people who know about these things or hear about them, but they don't want to hear, they don't want to listen because it's so disturbing, and they prefer to turn a blind eye to it. Mm-hmm. So,
well, to that point, in terms of what normalizing the pedophilia, an example in California, and I'm going to refer to my notes because there's like 16 bills here that are affecting our children and our families. But our Senator Scott Wiener proposed SB 145, which passed in 2020, which this enacts the law to permit pedophiles to engage with sex with minors and not have to report to the sex offender registry as long as the age bracket was within 10 years. So it's minor, sexually attracted to minor children. Basically, a 22-year-old could be having sex with a 12-year-old, and it's the punishment has been minimized, and now they don't have to go into sexual registration form. It's just an example of normalizing pedophilia.
And another aspect of what the result of this may be, another study shows how adults over 50, there's a 0.3% transgenders. 30 to 49 is 1.6%, 18 to 30 is 5%. So there's a huge increase in the percentage as people get younger. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to that?
Well, and I fear that those numbers are going to escalate and escalate even faster now, because with the 50-year-olds, when they were in school, this agenda was not being forced upon them. We didn't have the social media platforms that are also helping to teach and encourage this. So I think there's a number of reasons why. The material in schools, what bothers me is we know that our children need sexual education, whether it's in health science, or and they need to learn about the reproductive system. So back in my day, because I'm in that 50 age bracket, we talked about the reproductive system and we moved on. But now we're not only talking about the reproductive system, there are books in the schools that are teaching children about sexual acts with them, themselves, others, objects. this is in the schools. It's just horrific. And then just as in that article here, what is it? Anonymous sex and aromantic. Our children are being over-sexualized, confused, and then pushed along this narrative. So I think that number is going to significantly increase quickly.
The disturbing fact, I think it is the money being spent, the taxpayers' money being spent on this education or on encouraging these acts that you mentioned. Let's talk about SB, I think it's SB 596, the Senate bill that puts limitations on parents' ability to deal with issues.
Also a bill authored by Scott Wiener. What that SB 956 would have criminalized the speech of California parents who went to school board meetings or disagreed with administration at schools. And that bill would have allowed for the parents to be arrested, serve time in the county jail for up to 1 year, as well as pay fines of $500 to $1,000. So that bill was proposed, I believe it was this year, and thank goodness it was vetoed by Gavin Newsom on, actually just a couple of weeks ago, on October 8th. So we're seeing insidious bills being brought forward to, well, one, we're seeing this agenda or this being pushed in our schools to educate our children about things that they shouldn't be learning about. That wants to be taught. That should be, the parents should be able to have the ability to have these discussions, not the schools. And then when the parents are speaking up because they don't want this taught with their tax-paying dollars in their schools, now they're going to be criminalized. They're going to be jailed. They're going to be fined. This is absolutely outrageous. And it's just gone too far.
I know you've been also vocal about the athletes when you have male athletes competing in women's sports. Please talk to us about that.
Well, you know, I do not oppose when our children are little and they're playing softball or soccer and you've got the littles who are playing co-ed sports. Absolutely fine. But it's when the kids get a little bit older and the biologically born boys have more testosterone and strength than the girls. When they are competing in competitive sports with girls and women, that is when the girls and the women can really get hurt. They're losing their scholarships in schools. They're women and girls who've competed or trained all their life. All of that is being taken away from them in a hot second because a biologically born male now decides to say he is a girl and is competing against them. I mean, it's for a friend of mine, her daughter is a wrestler, and now she's wrestling in college. If she has to compete against a boy, she could have her neck broken. She could be paralyzed. She could die. This is unacceptable. We need to even the playing fields. Boys and boys sports, girls and girls sports. And if there's a way for us to form another class and the biologic, the men to women or women to, they want to have their own field of sports, God bless you.
Now, I want to talk to you about solutions. I know you've been involved with several successful recalls, and probably the most prominent one has been the San Francisco DA, Chesabuddin. You were involved with that. He was recalled. Then we had 3 school board members who were recalled, and you were involved with that. One was unsuccessful, and there was our governor's recall. But you did play a major role in this. What do you think some of the solutions are, and what do you plan to do?
Well, there's many solutions. One, people need to stop being afraid. They need to be aware of what's going on. Look a little bit further than what is being shown on television because our media is not providing all the accurate information. So get involved in your community, volunteer, join groups, become active. That's one solution. For a couple of these issues, some solutions are there are going to be 3 ballot measures that are going to be that we're going to be collecting signatures for very soon to get it on the November ballot, which will be sex segregated sports, no hormone blockers, cross-sex hormone or surgery on children, as well as no secrets kept from parents. So, and then I'll go into one more answer for you, but a lot of this gender affirming care is being provided at the schools and behind the parents' back. And there was a bill that Bill Asaley proposed, a bill, AB 1314, which would have required the schools to inform parents within 3 days if the child was identifying as a gender other than what they were born with. The committee killed that bill. So these schools want to keep these secrets, which is horrible. If a child was molested or raped, is the school going to keep that secret? No, at least I hope not. So why are they keeping these secrets? In terms of other things that I'm personally going to do to help make positive changes is I have, again, 16 bills here that are authored or co-authored by Senator Scott Wiener that are harming our children and our family. And I am taking an enormous leap right now and have decided to run for state senate against Scott Wiener to stop this, to reverse some of these bills and support our family and our children. I'm going to give one example in regards to the gender dysphoria and confusion. I don't think I've talked about this yet. As a registered nurse, I worked at Kaiser Permanente in San Francisco for 19 years. And Kaiser San Francisco was one of the very first gender reassignment surgery centers in California. And when I worked there, the men and women who were wanting to move forward with gender reassignment would have to come in through my department before they could move on to surgeries and various aspects. And I treated them, and I had a relationship with them for many months to a year as they're prepping for their journey. And what I know from that, which was about 7 to 8 years ago, is these adults were required to go through vigorous psychological evaluations. They would have to cross-dress for a year before they could receive their hormone blockers, cross-sex hormones, or be considered for surgery. And so that has now changed. The medical community has abandoned that standard of care. Not only have they abandoned that standard of care, they have now lowered the age limit, and now they're offering these surgeries to children. Now, when children cannot drive a car, buy cigarettes, vote in our elections, fight in our military, get a tattoo, why are they being allowed to self-diagnose, choose their treatment, and further and go along with this on appointment number 1? Some of these children aren't even being seen in person. And they are being affirmed that they are not normal, that they were not born right, that something is wrong with them. How cruel is that? That is the meanest thing that you can say to a child. And then they're moving along on this path. And I would like to mention or just give a comparison or a different example on the sense that if a child with anorexia or bulimia they're suffering from like anorexia or bulimia, and the parents are bringing these children into a facility or a therapist to help address their anorexia. These providers are not affirming that these children have this, that their bodies are not right, that, that the child, their phobia, they think that they're large, they're fat, when in fact they're skin and bones. The provider does not affirm that they are fat and provide them diet pills or get them on the OR schedule for a lap band or gastric surgery. They're treating their dysphoria, and they don't stop treating that dysphoria, hopefully, until they're out of it. So my question is,
please explain that more to clarify. So there's someone who suffers from anorexia or bulimia, right? And so how are they being treated again? How are they, how should they be treated?
I think, well, I don't know the specifics on that, but we know that they're provided therapy. They might be going into facilities that help address their dysphoria, their body image dysphoria.
And this does not happen in the transgender,
in the gender confused world. No, they're affirming them, and appointment number 1, giving them medication to continue them on this path. That's cruel. That's criminal. Let's give this, we just need to slow this down. I wish we could go back to the initial standards that we had before. I can't say whoever is, but we need proper therapy. They should be required to live in that role for a while before they start receiving these medical castration medications. I mean, they're being chemically castrated. These gender confused boys to girls, once they start, I think it's after 4 months of taking these hormone blockers, cross-sex hormone, that they are sterile for life.
So basically it's irreversible.
It's irreversible.
The treatments are irreversible. And the decision is being made at a young age and without much thinking put into it.
There's no diagnostic test to assess if somebody was biologically born in the wrong body. There's no diagnostic test. The DSM says that this is it's a dysphoria, and it's typically temporary. And if these children who have this dysphoria were left alone, weren't provided hormone therapy, cross-sex hormone surgery, if they were just left alone to go through their puberty, 88% of them will become normal in their naturally born body. But right now we have 1 in 4 girls who are identifying as boys. If they're receiving these medications, these hormones and surgery on appointment number 1, they're not ever going to have a chance to figure this out on their own. So I beg people to wake up, and if they have to, think of it like anorexia. We're not going to continue giving diet pills or a gastric bypass or lap band to these children who suffer with anorexia or bulimia. We should hold the same standard for these children who are confused, and they're being confused in the schools, and I think through social media.
Thank you very much for explaining that. Now, tell us a little about your story. You worked for 25 years, and then you lost your job. I think our audience would like to know how that happened.
So I'm a registered nurse, 25 years, and in the beginning of the COVID epidemic, I actually personally acquired the flu the very first week that we were shut down in California. So I think it was March 15th of 2020? 2020. Yeah. I acquired that flu, treated myself all on my own. Kaiser, back then you couldn't even, it was very restrictive with getting tests. So I recovered myself, and we were locked down for 3 months. Nobody worked, went back to work. And then later, the vaccinations were being rolled out, and I was required or was being encouraged to vaccinate. Now, I knew that I already had the virus. I tested my antibodies every 3 months and had confirmation through a test from Kaiser that I had the antibodies, and I was uncomfortable taking a vaccination, a shot, an experimental shot that I've already have the antibodies to and recovered from. So I was terminated, and I didn't work for about a year.
You were terminated because you didn't want to take the shot.
I was terminated because I was not going along with the plan with the COVID shutdown. So I became very active, and I guess politically, and one of the groups that I joined and volunteered for was Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s group, Children's Health Defense, and I volunteered with their California group for the last almost 3 years. Amazing group. Robert Kennedy Jr. is remarkable with what he has done. So many different providers are fearless and helping to make us aware and bring truth to the nation and the world.
How many people in the area where you live in San Francisco identify with the things you believe in or with the things that you are doing? Do you feel there's people that identify with you?
I would say I'm a minority in San Francisco. What is amazing, I've actually never met more Democrats, liberals, who are saying, you know what, they're waking up. They're waking up to these issues. They're seeing that their freedoms and civil liberties were removed. Even the Republicans too. So many people in San Francisco went along with this. And I think some people truly believe it, and that's fine. I can't argue, it's their belief, but many people regret the fact that they went along with this or took their 14 boosters or whatever number that they took. And I just have to say, this is your choice. You do what you want. You do what you're comfortable with, what you want. But I don't want their fear or their choices being forced and implemented on me.
Thank you so much for your time. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to add that I could use everybody's support in my race to run against Scott Wiener. Mr. Wiener is, I believe, one of the most dangerous legislators in California. And what people need to realize is the legislation that is passed in California will soon trickle onto other states. So if you're in another state and you think you're safe, you're probably not, because it may be coming to you. So I could use everybody's support for my campaign, which is YvetteForSenate.org.
Yvette, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of Bay Area Innovators. We hope through the program today you learn more about the transgender and gender ideology issues related to children provided by our guests. We'll see you next time with another episode. I'm your host, Steve Espas. Thank you.